This problem is similar to something I saw in the book, so I wanted to work through this, but then save the book problem for you to practice later. So they've given us this fraction here, 6x plus 8 over x squared plus 3x plus 2, and they're asking us to expand it. So we're using some of this binomial expansion. So what we need to do is we need to get it in such a way that we have, well, here's what we know. We can rewrite this. Notice I factored the denominator and broke that. I can break this back into its partial fractions, and so that I could then have one thing raised to the negative 1 and then something else raised to the negative 1. I don't know what these numbers are going to be out in front yet, but I've learned how to do this expansion and that expansion, and then I could add them together, thus expanding the whole thing. Okay, so first we have to remember how to, or learn how to put this into partial fractions, and then we have to remember what we do when we have a non-positive integer exponent. Okay, so here we can, if I were to work backwards, going back this way, I would have that my numerator is equal to a times x plus 1 plus b times x plus 2. Okay, and the goal is to solve for a and b. So what our book suggests, and I thought this was clever, is that let's plug in values for x and then solve. So first one, we're going to let x equal negative 1. That way this term is gone. When x is negative 1, I have 6 times negative 1 plus 8 is equal to, well, a times negative 1 plus 1 plus b times negative 1 plus 2. So I get 2 is equal to, this is gone, to negative, I lied, that's positive 1b. So 2 is equal to b. Oh, lovely. Okay, then the next part is let's go ahead and let's solve for a. So let's make this part go to 0, sorry. Let's make the part with b go to 0. So I'm going to say let x equal negative 2. And so now I have 6 times negative 2 plus 8 is equal to a times negative 2 plus 1 plus b times negative 2 plus 2. That goes to 0. I have negative 12 plus 8. Okay, so negative 4. Sorry, I guess I didn't really need to write that, but I did. Is equal to, this becomes a negative 1a, and that's gone to 0, so a is equal to 4. Okay, so far we've done all this work to say that the 6x plus 8 over x squared plus 3x plus 2 is equal to 4 over, well, what was 4 over? 4 was over the x plus 2. And the b is now 2, is over x plus 1. Okay, so this, now we need to rewrite this in such a way that so that we can expand it out. So notice this is 4 times x plus 2 to the negative 1 plus 2 times x plus 1 to the negative 1. And what I find is, if you remember, well, the way that we want to do these is we want to rewrite this piece in here so that it's 1 plus something with our x. Okay, so rewriting it. Okay, so this is nice that we've already have 1 plus something with our x, and life is good. Over here, we need to deal with this 2. Okay, so we're going to say we've got 4 times, well, I can factor out a 2, and then I have a 1 plus x over 2. And all of that's getting raised to the negative 1. Okay, I am needing more paper. Sorry. Okay, so the next thing that I have here is this becomes 2 to the negative 1. It means that that's 1/2. So I have a 4 times 1/2 becomes 2 times 1 plus x over 2 to the negative 1 plus 2 times, well, that's convenient. That may or may not work out that way in the future for us, but let's just think our fortune here. Okay, so now each one of these can be written as a summation. So this is where r goes from 0 to infinity of negative 1, so it's this exponent, choose r, times our a value. When we raise 1 to different powers, nothing changes, so we just need the b value raised to the r. Then the other one here, this becomes 2 times the sum as r goes from 0 to infinity, Once again, the exponent comes here, r, and then I've got this term to the r. Okay, so they're asking me to expand this out to the term in x cubed. So this first one becomes 2 times, well, what happens when r equals 0? When r equals 0, I have, this becomes 1, and anything to the 0 power is 1. So that first term is just 1. Now what happens when r is 1? So now I have negative 1 over 1 factorial times x over 2 to the 1. Then when I have r equals 2, now I have negative 1 times 1 less than that, which is negative 2 all over 2 factorial times x over 2 squared. The next one is negative 1 times negative 2 times negative 3 all over 3 factorial times x over 2 cubed. And I could keep going, but they only asked me to go to the x cubed. The other part, this right here equals that. So now I need to look at the other one. This is a 2 times, well, this first term, once again, plug in 0, and choose 0, you've got 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1, so that's the first term. The next one, it's negative 1 divided by 1 factorial times x to the 1, plus negative 1 times negative 2 all over 2 factorial times x squared. And then the next term is negative 1 times negative 2 times negative 3 all over 3 factorial times x to the third power. And once again, it keeps going, but we're not going to. Okay, so cleaning all of this up, and I was telling my students in class today that I'd want to see this step. Well, I don't know how you're going to do it without writing out this step, but I'd need to see this. Now, the scratch work for how to clean this up is up to you. If you want to show me an intermediate step, you can. But what I know next is that I've got 2 times 1. This becomes a negative 1/2 x. This becomes, those 2's cancel, the negatives become positive, so I end up with 1 over 4 x squared. This 3 factorial is going to cancel with all that, but this is a negative, 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 gives me a negative. This is all gone. And this gives me x cubed over 2 cubed, which is 8, so minus 1/8 x cubed. And then plus dot, dot, dot. Then the other one was plus 2 times, well, this became, this is 1. This is now a negative x. This cancels, it's a positive x squared. This negative, there's 1, 2, 3 negatives, which make that negative. This is 3 factorial over 3 factorial, basically. And so then this just becomes x cubed plus dot, dot, dot. Okay, now let's combine our like terms. I've got a 2 plus a 2 gives me 4. I have a negative 1 and a negative 2 gives me a negative 3x, right? Here's hoping I know how to, the hard math I know how to do. Okay, so this is 1/2 x squared, 1/2 x squared, and then plus 2x squared. So that becomes plus 5/2 x squared. And now we're minus a 1/4 x cubed minus 2. So, right, minus a 4th minus 2, so that's 8/4 and another, so minus 9/4 x cubed. And this is our expansion. So they asked us here to expand this up to the term with x cubed. Well, we did right here. There we go. Practice. That's really all I can say, is that the more you practice, the more this makes sense, and the more that you're able to do it. So good luck. Go study. Bye.